Hello, Home Slices. It's Kiera with Home Slice Adulting coming to you with a full review for Family or Fiancé, Season 1, Episode 6, titled Celani and Justin, Old Traumas, New Dramas. Now, before we get into the meat and potatoes of this episode, I want to say thank you for clicking on this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video with someone who you think will like it. And if you're interested in hearing my thoughts on the previous 2 episodes, one of those reviews is on my YouTube channel. The other review is on my Instagram page. Now, just for your information, my Instagram page is public, and that means that you do not have to have an Instagram account to view my videos. So check out the links in the description box to access my Twitter and Instagram pages. Now let's jump right into this review because this episode came off as more of like a PSA than anything else. So let's talk about who's who. First, we have Celani and Justin. They've been together for 3 years. They met on Tinder and maintained a long distance relationship until Justin moved in with her somewhere in California. And it's like, isn't Tinder supposed to be for you to find local dates? I've never really used dating websites like that or anything along those lines. So I always thought Tinder was kind of like a local hookup type of thing. So I don't know how they were put in contact if he lived 3,000 miles away from her, but whatever. I don't know how it works. So the bride's family who is coming along, Celani's family, is Susan, who is Celani's mother. We have Nefertiti, who is Celani's sister, and we have Philip, who is Celani's cousin. And apparently, Celani's son, Niall, also has reservations about the marriage. Now, next we have the groom, Justin's family. Cynthia is Justin's mom. And Gabby and Pam are Justin's sisters. Now, apparently, they just learned about this engagement a few weeks prior to this show because he wanted them to come on the show, you know, regarding his engagement. Something is always wrong when the people you care about and the people you love are not aware of major changes and major events in your life. Something is always wrong. And that's the first red flag in this situation. The first of many red flags. But first we see the couple talk with Tracy McMillan, the relationship expert. And to get through this really quickly, I only took kind of minimal notes on things that were the most important. So at the end of the day, she gives them both tasks. Celani is supposed to have this spa bonding time with the ladies. And Justin and Philip are supposed to play basketball together and play 20 questions. So Justin's family arrives first, and the first thing that his mama, Cynthia, says is that her son and Celani are in so much trouble. And they talk about how they haven't seen or heard from him. You know, Justin's family says that they haven't seen or heard from him since he moved to California. And they don't even know what kind of school he's in. Again, that's always a bad indicator when your family does not know what's going on in your life. And next we see Celani's family arrives as well. And now it's family meeting time. And it's time for them to lay all their issues on the table and for them to say why or why not. Why or why don't they give Celani and Justin their blessings? So we see Pam. She says she feels that there's, you know, something that they are hiding or there's something secretive about their relationship. Because, you know, of course, they didn't find out till a few weeks prior. Cynthia, you know, Justin's mom, feels that they weren't forthcoming about the engagement. And Celani didn't know that Cynthia didn't know about the engagement. So my initial thought is Justin a liar? Like, is he a habitual liar? I don't know. We'll talk about that later, I think. Now, next we see Philip, who is Celani's cousin. He thinks that Celani will not get any reciprocity from Justin. Tell me who I have to be to get some reciprocity. Anyways, Susan, who is Celani's mother, is concerned about the angry outbursts that seem to have a correlation to Justin's PTSD. Now, he says he don't want to talk about PTSD till later in the process, but it's like, you know, if we're getting everything out on the table, this seems like an appropriate time to bring it up. Personally, what I think. Now, Cynthia comes to his defense, which I think is a problem. Cynthia is a little too involved for me, personally. And Susan don't want to hear that. Susan does not want to hear that. Come to find out later, we find out that Cynthia suffers from PTSD as well. So again, I think Susan waited for an appropriate time to air those issues out because that was the point of this whole exercise, but whatever. And I'm trying to figure out, when will people listen to Iyanla when she says that you can't heal what you can't speak? Cynthia was talking about how he doesn't talk about the PTSD, and clearly he's not like over it. And how are you going to be able to heal something if you don't talk about it? I don't want to minimize, the struggles of somebody with PTSD, but it's clear that avoiding talking about something or avoiding an issue does not solve it. I think that's pretty apparent. So, and since it's definitely an issue in their marriage, they definitely have to get some help for Justin. But anyways, again, Cynthia comes to Justin's defense, and like, why are y'all here if y'all can't talk about it? Why are y'all here if y'all can't talk about why Solani's son doesn't even want her to get married to Justin because of his outbursts? It's an issue and it needs to be brought up. So Cynthia gets upset and she leaves. Again, this is because she's kind of taking it personally as a person who also has PTSD. And it's unsettling in my spirit to see when, like, people have these types of issues. And I think a lot of this episode was about educating people about what PTSD is, and understanding what something is like the first step to having empathy for somebody and having sympathy for somebody. And I think a part of Solani's family's reservations was because they don't really know what PTSD is, and they don't know how far it's going to go. If he's going to end up hurting Solani, or it's ignorance essentially. And out of their ignorance, they're asking questions, and having PTSD, I don't think Justin wants to talk about it. He later on says that, he just doesn't want to answer questions about it. So later on, when they bring in a specialist, I think that was definitely the right move so that the people with PTSD, Cynthia and Justin, don't have to defend themselves about what's going on with them. So moving on, I'm jumping ahead. So, yeah, Cynthia gets upset and leaves. And then Cynthia had the nerve to say that Solani should have stopped her family from attacking Justin. Who was attacking Justin? All Susan did was mention the PTSD and her not knowing how that's going to impact their relationship, and knowing that her grandson is concerned about Justin's PTSD. Well, how was that an attack? She didn't even say it loud. She didn't scream or not. Look, I don't get it. I don't get it. I think she's being quite sensitive and quite protective because she's in that same situation. But I don't view it as an attack. Anyways, Susan is able to complete her thoughts and says that she want to make sure that whenever the PTSD is triggered, that they're both safe. And I feel like that's a legitimate concern. Now, moving on, we see Nefertiti, and she says that she wants to understand PTSD more. And Justin just gets upset and starts crying. And it's like, people who have PTSD are really struggling. And I know that there's a stigma, particularly in the Black community, about people seeing therapists. And, yeah, we got to get rid of that if we want to make sure that our mental health is on point. Now, moving on, we see that the guys are playing basketball. So Philip wants to know why the marriage was a secret. And Justin said he didn't want to be judged by his family. Now, that excuse might work if you're like 21 and you're going to get married. And your family is going to feel like you're not ready to get married. Or if, got somebody pregnant and that's why you're getting married to them. But these people are like, have to be in their early 40s, mid 40s. And it's like, okay, now you're a grown man. If you can't tell your mama that you're engaged to the woman of your dreams, then what are you? Are you a man or a mouse? Like, what are you? if you can't even tell your mama that you are engaged to somebody that you have been dating for 3 years and somebody that you love? If you can't stand up to your mama, that's an indication of the type of person you are and a reflection of the relationship that you have with your mom. So I really wasn't feeling that. Moving on, they talk a little bit about the PTSD, and he says that he has only given Selene like a little, I'm sorry, Selani. When I see her name, I want to say Selene. Selani, a piece of what's really going on with him and his PTSD. What's important to note is that, for 10 years he was in the military. He wasn't allowed to show emotion. And, that's a toxic environment. The army is, the military is riddled with this idea of toxic masculinity, and that, you can't show emotion, and that things have to be so structured. And it's clearly not good for people's mental health to have to see and experience all of those things and then to not seek help afterward. It's clearly not right. But then it's coming off as Justin is very secretive, and I don't really care for that. But next we see the ladies getting pampered, and they are asking her questions as well. Selene feels like Justin is the secretive one, and it was not Selene who kept from them their engagement. Later on, we find out Selene was told that his family knew. But moving on, we see that they have started to experience tension ever since Justin started film school, and that, Selene is afraid of losing him in the process, but never wants to stop him from accomplishing his dreams. So next we have dinner time. They keep asking questions. This time it's about communication, because clearly Justin has a problem with communications. He has not communicated to his family that he, was getting engaged. He didn't communicate to Selene about the hours that it would take for him to go to film school. So now they're not spending a lot of time together. He's just very bad at communicating. And Justin says, he's not used to answering to someone. And he says that he's been selfish. And Selene says, that's interesting, because I have been selfless and have put things that I, am trying to do on hold so that you can have your dreams. And Justin said, basically, you did that by choice. Okay, I'm not stopping you from doing anything that you want to do. You are free to do whatever you want to do. And maybe that's right. Maybe Justin has a point. Maybe Selene is so used to having to give up the things that she wants to help others that maybe she just did it voluntarily without realizing that it wasn't necessary in this particular case. Because that's something we do, as Black women. We wear this superwoman S on our chests and feel like we have to be, giving of ourselves, and we have to be altruistic. And sometimes it doesn't require that. Sometimes we can be in a position to think about ourselves. And it's once you have kind of been trained in that type of mindset, it's very hard to let go of the fact that people don't always need us and that we don't always have to be superwoman. So maybe Justin was right on that. I don't know. Moving on, chaos starts to ensue when people start talking over each other. Everybody's telling everybody to shut up, and Selene gets mad at Gabby, and Gabby gets mad at Selene, and they go back and forth, and it's excuse me, y'all. It's just one big misunderstanding. Okay. And tensions are high, and there was really no reason for this dinner to get derailed. I think Philip escalated things when he stood up. He should have just sat down comfortably in his seat. And that's the thing I'm talking about Selene's family being ignorant about PTSD. I think that Philip was on high alert because he didn't know how Justin was going to react once he got to a point where his voice was being raised and he was getting a little upset and passionate about the things that he was going to say. But moving on, Justin is at the point where he just kind of wants to take his ball and go home. And Selene is like, we need to stay here and work it out, or else, we're going to be nothing. So they have a scene where Philip, Nefertiti, Selene, and her mama are talking about what's going on and how they feel about Justin's family. And they feel like they can't really ask questions to Justin without his mom coming to his defense. And now Selene has doubts where she hadn't had doubts before. Justin and his mama talk for a little bit, and they say they want to go home. And they are some of the most conflict averse people that I've seen on this show. But Justin says he wants to face things, so I think that's, a step in the right direction. So next they meet up with Tracy again. Solani is mad about him not telling his mama because he lied to her and said that he did tell his mama. Again, that's indicative of the type of person Justin is and the type of relationship he has with his mama, and that's problematic. And Solani got, emotional about it, because who wants to be hidden from the person that they love? Like who wants to feel like they are being kept secret? And I understand why Solani got emotional. They talk about the PTSD issue, and is she a doctor? Tracy tells them that she is bringing in a doctor to help them have that conversation in a constructive way. And then that's going to be Justin's, item to do. And then Solani's thing to do, her task, is to talk to her son and check in with him about their impending nuptials. So they have the PTSD conversation with someone named Dr. Allie. She's educating them on PTSD, what it is, telling them that they can have a good relationship to, with that people can have good relationships with people who have PTSD, and that it's all about communication, and that it's about, getting somebody there who's there to support you in your mental health. And this is the first time that I saw a different side of Cynthia, and I kind of felt for her in this moment where I really wasn't seeing it for her before. So I have, some sympathy for her in this moment when she was sharing her thoughts on, what she goes through as a person who has PTSD. And so, moving on, we see Solani sit down with Niall. Apparently he told his grandma about his issue with Justin, and in Niall's words, he says that Justin snaps when things go wrong, or whatever, I guess whenever he's triggered. And Niall thinks that Justin is a good person and that he really likes him, but he needs to work on his temper. And poor Niall just touched my heart when he said that he didn't want to talk to his mom about Justin because he didn't want them to break up. He didn't want to be the reason they broke up. And that just touched my little heart so much that yeah, he just touched my heart. And at the end of the day, Niall basically said he's not going to give them his blessing personally. So they meet with Tracy another time. They talk about how much they learned from Dr. Allie. And they talk about Niall a little bit, and, Niall's feelings. And Justin acknowledges that things need to change in that arena. And then Solani gets real and says that Justin's family is basically famous for running away from conflict, and that Justin is no exception. And she even calls his mama a trigger, which, I don't know, girl. I don't know. I don't know about that, okay? But moving on. It is blessing ceremony number 2. They are at the end of this process, and they go around the room to figure out who is going to give them their blessing after this tumultuous weekend. And turns out, nobody. Absolutely nobody wants to give them their blessing, and everybody cites their reasons why. But the main themes are they need better communication, which I agree, and he needs help for his PTSD, and that they have made plans, but there has been no follow through. Susan mentioned something about a legacy. She was hinting at something that none of us are really familiar with because we don't know this couple. Apparently they were both in relationships previously that went down the wrong road, and she doesn't want to pass that down to her grandson, whatever that means. And then Cynthia, y'all. Cynthia was saying that she's not going to not give them the blessing, but she is not going to give them their blessing, which doesn't make sense, but whatever. She said that it was secretive. And then she's like, I wish you all would have told me so I could be involved in stabilizing your relationship. This is what I'm talking about. I dealing with overbearing mamas is annoying to me. If you're going to raise a son, you're supposed to raise him to stand on his own 2 feet. You don't need to come to his defense, right? Because you raise him the way you want to raise him, right? So when women feel like they have to get really overly involved in their son's life, to me, that's showing like an insecurity that they didn't raise them maybe the way that they fully wanted to. That's just my opinion. Why can't you trust your son to make his own decisions? Why do you need to be involved in stabilizing somebody else's relationship? Are you in a relationship? What are you doing with your life? I don't think she's in a relationship if she has time to move to where they are so that she can watch them do the work. Don't you need to be getting your own help for your own PTSD? Don't you need to be worrying about your own life? Y'all, overbearing mamas are just, I can't. I cannot, okay? Moving on, Solani turns to Justin after hearing that nobody really wants to give them their blessing and says, we need to put a pin in this wedding. I'm going to wear this engagement ring around my neck on this chain. And we need time, we need healing, we need counseling, and then we'll, go from there. And I personally think they made the right move. Justin was very receptive to it. They did not break up. And they have a big group hug at the end. And I think everybody there was very relieved that they kind of called off the wedding for now. And hopefully they are all doing better as, a group of people who are eventually planning on mending their families. At the end, we see that Justin is seeing a therapist and that their engagement is still on ice, but they are together. They are living together, and Niall approves. So things turn out well, even though they are not headed to the altar just yet. So I think at the end of the day, they made the right decision. I think this was a great PSA for PTSD. And, if you know somebody who is struggling with a PTSD, or if you are struggling with PTSD, I encourage you to use the resources that were at the end of the episode to get some help. There is no shame in taking care of yourself and taking care of your mental health. So you all tell me what you thought about this episode. Thank you so much for watching, and peace out, home slices.